Hey guys, it's me again, Orcslayer What Ifs. Where we last left off, let's see, checking. So where I last left off, Belle found Shax. And Shax is about to put him through some training, because, Belle ain't that good when it comes to fighting. He is somewhat, his reflexes and such are already pretty fast, as Shax understands this. He then, goes on to try and train Belle early in the morning. As Shax pretty much walks up to Belle, picks him up, and just drags him outside. As he's like, what, Warlord? As he's like, just call me Shax. Now, first off, hands in the air. Put your hands up. As he's like, alright. Now, as Shax just comes running at him, as he throws punches and kicks, trying to get Belle to retaliate. As he says, keep your arms up, Belle. Otherwise, you're gonna die. As he's like, yes, Lord Shax. As he just keeps on throwing punches, with Belle doing his best to avoid them. As Shax, I believe Shax is actually I think he's 6'11", almost 7 foot. So Belle's just bobbing and trying to duck as he sort of kicks Shax and tries to punch him. But he doesn't really, have that advantage. So he just keeps on moving back and back. As some people actually have come out to watch this, as it's like, who do you think's gonna win? Of course it's Shax. What are you, an idiot? As actually, Gramps actually is saying, come on, Belle boy, you can do it. As they are all just continuously just watching him. As he's like, don't you all have duties to get to? Get to it. As they're like, yes, Warlord. As they all rush off to do what they're supposed to do. As this is Belle's life for over a month. Well, let's say 3 months. 2 months. As Belle is just continuously trained again and again and again. As Shax doesn't yet trust Belle completely. But Belle actually does practice on his own when it comes to fighting. As Shax also gives him rundown on how the light actually functions. Like how, from what they have been able to find out, there's 3 main elements that they can use. They can use the void. They can also use the... Don't yawn. They can also use arc, which is pretty much just lightning as he puts it, and the one you've probably used already with the golden gun, fire. Have you used any others? She's like, no. He's like, alright. Well, may have to try to find somebody who can teach you then. He's like, yes, sir. As he's like, now then, continue on with your training. We're gonna put you even through more hell. As he's like, oh no, yep. Go out there. As he gives something to Deku, I've received a report. Fallen are trying to bust through my territory. The warlords in surrounding areas have reported this to me. They are too cowardly to deal with the Fallen themselves, and as they see me as the ruler of this territory, demand that I deal with it. Typically I would, but I'll send as they have most definitely have come to know you, since there are who are in contact with places here and know about you. They said send your assistant or squire, whichever they prefer. As he's like, am I your second in command? No, I have no second in commands. I only have my command. He's like, yes, Lord Shax. It's like, now go. The Fallen could be a serious threat if we let them persist. And he's like, yes, sir. As Belle goes running off. As Belle starts walking down the mountain, as Lily's like, shouldn't we, get more stuff? He's like, yeah, I think we'll be fine. And he also gave us directions, right? She's like, got a point there. So, how long do you think it'll take us to get there? Well, if we run non-stop, probably 3 or 4 days. And this is that's a long while. Yeah, but what are you going to do? He's like, good point. Very well. as they start marching over as they just talk more and more over the course of these 5 days, 3 or 4 days, they eventually arrive in the little town, you could call it, where the warlord, or some of the warlord, or appointed warlord, presides over. He explains the situation and tells Belle to go handle it. As he's like, "Why aren't you coming along?" He's like, you're Shax's disciple or whatever. You can deal with it." As he throws away, as he like flicks some like a bit of food that was in his mouth, as Belle's like, "Fine, but don't get angry at me if Shax is disappointed with you." He's like, As he like takes a quick swallow of like spit, he's like, "All right, don't threaten me, guy." As Belle says, "That isn't a threat." As Belle walks away, as the warlord now is kinda scared. As Belle sort of lets Shax rub off on him in that aspect, Shax can be quite intimidating if you wanted to. As Belle just sort of put on a cold demeanor, you could call it. As he doesn't put on this air that he's like naive or like overly aggressive, Belle just puts on this like very cold way of talking. As then Belle does a bit of recon as he's looking at the area, he's like, seems we got, it's like, oh, okay, those are some devils. Let's see, I count quite a lot of them. They have like 20 vandals, like maybe 50 or 60 dregs. How many captains are here? It's like, how do you know there's even a captain? This seems like a bigger force. He's like, this isn't just some crew. This seems like several crews working in tandem. So, Lily, what do you think? She's like, could it be that they have like a baron or something around? He's like, that's probably a good possibility. All right, let's find him, see if he's here, and let's see if we can sniff him out. As they do the stealthy approach. As he starts sneaking along the walls, he's like, Lily, do you see any like vents or something? She's like, up here. So as Belle pretty much jumps up and is able to enter through the ventilation system, as it's like a little miniature like, let's call it like an old, maybe like a lodge or something that was up there. As Belle and them are all looking through it, he's like, all right. As they're being very quiet, as through the halls, like through the ventilation shaft, as they hear Fallen talking below, Belle and Lily are just constantly listening. And she's like, I don't know much Fallen, so don't expect a translation. He's like, I wouldn't expect you to. As then they come across a few that actually speak a little bit of English, or whichever language. As they're like, hey, have you heard? Some of the other crews are starting to move in on that one ghoul's territory. He's like, yeah, that's gonna be difficult for them. He's like, I agree. It is not smart to challenge Shax, as they call him. Good point. But what can we do? They do not listen to us. It's like, we are just vandals. No captain, no baron. Speaking of which, have you heard about the baron we have here? No. But I hear she's quite formidable. Not the one you'd wish to fight on the daily. Or anytime, really. Correct? I think she's up in that room over there. As Belle's like, what room? The one on the right? No, the one on the left hall. Second door. Her chambers. Belle's like, well, why, thank you for the directions. As he quietly like moves along even more. She's like, Herd City. Other houses make moves on guardians as well. As then he moves past that, he's like, maybe I should report this to Shax. As he gets there, as he's right above in the ventilation shaft looking over her thing, right now she's just resting. As he's like, going down there, as there's no vandals or anything. He looks around, there's no servitor. He's like, excuse me. As he's like, alright, now's my chance. As he drops down very quietly, he's like, alright. I don't have to be extra loud. As he brings up like a very big knife, as you would call it. He's like, 3, 2, 1, and just rams it down very quietly. As there's no struggling, no nothing. It's just quiet. It's like, alright. As then he just leaves the knife. As he's like, my fingerprints aren't on it, so maybe the fallen will start start snapping each other's necks. As he's walking by, he sees something as he's like, hello. As it's like a fallen terminal, he's like, hey, Lily, see if you can hack this and see if you can get any information out of it. She's like, alright. As Belle locks the door and such, Lily's like, oh, they got it. It looks like there's a few. Yeah, it states how this was a group she was bringing together under the orders of the Archon. He wanted to start a force here so that way he can try to take this portion of Russia. Or wherever they're at. And she's like, he's kind of smart. Shax is no ordinary guardian, I would say. He's like, yeah. Anyways, we best be move. As in, there's knocking on the door, as it says. In Fallen, it's just speaking in Fallen. Belle, not Deku, is like, alright, time to get up. As he jumps up and gets into the vent, he brings back the panel. As then eventually there's a bang and then crashes through the door. As it's like the Baroness would not approve of this. She's like, she always answers. As then they like start arguing. As one of the captains there says she's dead. As they all turn around and look at it, they just see a knife buried into this Baroness's skull. As they're like, oh no. As then they all start arguing amongst each other. As then the base is put on high alert. As Belle's like, alright, this will not be easy. So, crawls through the vents. As then he looks outside where he came from. As it's like, he sees that the entire area is just fully mobilized. Fallen are running around everywhere. Not taking any chances. Belle's like, I think we may have to stay here for a little while, Lily. She's like, I think so too. So we just gonna wait here, or he's like, probably be the best. As they just sit there for a while, as several hours go by, and the base is just as then he just starts hearing the infighting. As it's like, as he looks over into the courtyard, as I'll say, he doesn't look in it, but he actually sends Lily out to go look. As she's actually looking, as she's somewhat, I believe they can cloak and such. So that's what she does, is that she's sort of cloaked in a way. She's looking over. She tells Belle through like a radio that she can actually, like the 4 fallen captains are fighting at the moment. As he's like, what? She's like, yeah, they're not happy. I think they're accusing each other of which one of them killed the Baroness. As he's like, oh, according to plan. She's like, yep. Oh, some of them are making some crude gestures to one another. He's like, is it safe for me to come out? They shouldn't see ya. As he comes out quietly and jumps down and starts running. As then Belle arrives at the warlord, telling him, yeah, they're dead. She's dead. Like, the Baron, there was a Baroness up there. She's dead. She's like, and the fallen shouldn't be too much trouble in the moment. Crews started turning on each other as I had to stay there for several hours. He's like, oh, I guess that's good to hear then. Good luck then. And she's like, yep. I'm pretty sure they have sparrows by this point, but I could be wrong. So I'll say this is what happens. The warlord gives Deku a horse. As I'll say, there's some horses left. And so he has one. As he's like, take this and get back to Shax quickly. Wouldn't want him coming down here himself. As he's like, yeah, I don't think Shax would be happy with how sometimes you run things. As he's like, you have no idea how I run things. Now get out of here, little kid. As Bell's like, man, a lot of these warlords are assholes. As then he like, as he's like, do you know how to ride a horse? No. He's like, well, here's the gist of it. As he pretends like he's gonna give Bell a lesson, then he just smacks the horse's back, the butt, and just like gets the horse rushing off. He's like, good luck. As Bell's like, whoa, as he likes having a bit of a freak out, as he's just like jumping up and down on this horse. He's like, Lily, how do I stop this thing? She's like, I don't know. And she's like, all right. As he starts like getting it to calm down, as it's pretty well trained, you could say, as he quickly figures that out, he's like, all right, simple enough. They just move along. As so the 4 days it took 2 days. As Bell covered much quicker ground since he didn't just run all the time, he just walked. As eventually arriving back at Shax's mountain, they eventually rode in to town. Rode in at the fortress or whatever. As eventually Bell shows up on his horse, he's like, "Ah, Bell, I see you got a mighty steed for you." As he's like, "Why, yes, I did. The fallen won't be an issue." Really now, he's like, "Yep, the baroness was a baroness leading a formidable group. Apparently, the Kel or Archon, whichever I said, wanted to form a force in this area so that way they could try to take you out." Me? Did it say that by name? He's like, well, it just gave the ghoul on the mountain. So I'm pretty sure that's chord that responds only to you, really. It's like, good point there, Bell. Well, aside from that, how's your work been going? It's like, I just got done with the work. He's like, yes. Forgive me. Did you learn anything new? He's like, fallen and fighting can be a very great force if you use it right. She's like, attaboy. He's like, training will begin again tomorrow, early. He's like, yes, Lord Shax, good. With Bell and Shax continuing his training on the next morning. Now, unbeknownst to them, a single fallen had noticed something had jumped out of the ventilation shaft, and it followed for a little bit, but just saw tracks of human footprints. So what it did next was, well, it rallied all the fallen it could by showing them the tracks, as then the captains who were arguing at this point understands what happens, and then they decide, alright, as they like all collectively, you could say, brought all four arms together and just cracked their knuckles, just said, alright, target acquired. As at first, they followed the tracks all the way as far as they could, and found that village. That village, after they called in support, was wiped out along with the warlord. The ghost realized he could not save his warlord, so he decided to fly off to find someone else, or to at least hide until he could revive him. As then Bell and Shax are training one day, as then they hear whoosh, like the sounds of ships coming out of whatever you could call it. And they're like, what's that? Oh. With them right there, they realize this battle is going to be quite difficult, isn't it, Shax? He's like, indeed it will be, Bell. Go protect the civilians. Protect those under our care. As Bell's like, I'll get everyone organized. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, Shax, these people aren't strangers to a fight. I'm pretty sure you can tell that by now too. He's like, it's like, we need to do it to keep everyone safe. So let's pull our weight and get them organized. I'll have them protect the inside of the mansion while the two of us focus on the outside. He's like, you sure you're ready for that, Bell? He's like, most definitely, sir. He's like, very well. Grab your gear. Get them all organized. We'll hit them as soon as they land. He's like, yes, sir. And Bell You're doing all right. Come on. It's like, yes, sir. As he runs inside and gets everyone organized, he actually puts Gramps in charge of the, defense. As Gramps is like, don't worry, Belle. We'll make sure everything stays in tip-top shape while we're here. As the 4 captains coordinating this assault have actually called in a little bit of backup. One that has a spider tank. As it's like, well, we take him out. This should be simple enough. He's like, all right. As they crack their necks. So, we come in from the left and the right. We'll take those positions, and then we'll eventually swoop in, gut anyone who stands in our way. As that's the gist of their plan. As Bell stands on one side of the fort, he's like, as one of the troops come out, he's like, here, sir, take this. As he's like, what is this? He's like, it's a scout rifle. Helps you in longer range. Or at least it should. He's like, alright. As he looks at it and like locks in, then loads it, he's like, alright. As he waits, they eventually hear the skittering and screeching of the fallen as they have pretty much like a whole thing of dregs just flooding over to Bell's position. He's like, alright. As he stands up and just starts taking shots, as it's like pew pew, bang, 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 all over. As he just keeps on getting headshot. There's only so much you can do against a whole horde of dregs like that, so they eventually start getting up his defenses. So he's like, alright. Brings out the SMG and just starts bringing it along the thing. He's like, you know what? As he pulls out his other weapon, which is, remember those shock pistols? If I already said he got rid of them, my apologies. He actually kept them. As he just starts firing with one of them, as he's just like, just unloading with an SMG on the right hand and a shock pistol with the left. She's just spraying all over and taking them down. He's like, ammo, as he just throws the shock pistol as it hits a dreg in the head. As he falls back a little bit, he's like, keep holding the line. As he just keeps on just firing and reloading and firing. Throws a grenade, explodes, gets him. As then he throws a knife, he's like, alright. Cracking his neck again. He concentrates and actually brings out his 2 knives as he jumps over and just starts slicing or cutting, stabbing, whichever you prefer, as that is the weapons he uses. He uses 2 small knives, cutting the dregs as they all try to stab at him with their knives. He's like, not today, as he stab and stab. Bell is very good when it comes to offense and a little bit better when it comes to defense. So as he's cutting his way through these dregs, some of them start making their way towards the doors as they try to start ripping them open. As when they actually are able to somewhat do it for a split second, Bell's people actually start shoot them up like quite a bit. As it's like, don't worry, Bell, we won't let these bastards in this hole. As they just start firing. He's like, good. As then he switches from his switches from his dual knives to a scout rifle. As he takes up a higher position and just keeps on laying down the fire, he's like, I really wish I had a bigger rapid fire gun. As then you get over Shax, as he pretty much is just demolishing the fallen that come near him. Smashing into the ground with Stryker, using his hammer of soul when it actually comes to it. He throws it, boom, and just causes more explosions. He wonders what's happening with Bell. As when you cut it over to Bell, he's pretty much at the point stabbing one of the last of the dregs. He takes a breather, he's like, no deaths. That's a good thing. Thanks to Shaq's training, I don't think I would have been able to survive without it. He's like, alright. More ammo, as they roll out a thing of ammo towards him. As he throws back the scout rifle, what's in here? He's like, well, it's a shotgun. He's like, this would be more useful. As he loads it and is ready to go again. He's like, alright, what's next? As then he sees vandals and captains coming to his position. As the captains just saw after they arrived, they expected the dregs to win against. Well, they didn't expect that Shaxx would actually have two light bearers here. So, with that, as they moved in, they weren't expecting, as then they feel, as they see a shining light in the distance, they hear pew, bang, bang, bang all over. Actually, they feel 6 shots as well. Deku just obliterated several captains following them, and then a couple of vandals for good measure. Throwing his grenade out there, he then starts firing again. Bell finishing off as much as he can in those small moments. As then they hear wrong. As Shaxx and them both hear that, as they see a spider tank dropped, as they're like, shoot. As they move over, Shaxx and Bell both move over to try and deal with it. As Bell starts lighting it up with his SMG, as then he throws a knife, as it blows off one of the legs. After Bell rushed in with a shotgun and just lit it up very fast, as it has that big explosion it does. Shaxx is like, good job, Bell, move in closer. Bell quickly reloads his shotgun, as then he jumps on top of the spider tank and just starts shooting into that little core it has. As eventually it does a whole thing where it gets back up and it explodes that electric shot, you call it. And then Bell is flung into the wall. As he's like, oh, that ain't nice. Then Shaxx tries to push forward again, but is suppressed by the arc cannon thing that has on its main cannon. Then it lines up the shot where Deku is, as then boom, sends the shot flying past him and crashes and blows up the wall next to him. As Bell is again sent tumbling forward, he's like, why? He realizes what just happened. He moves in close, uses golden gun, and just blasts the legs to just smithereens to where it's lopsided. He then jumps on top of it, and with a remaining shot, fires it, then unloads again with his shotgun, destroying it finally. You're like, oh. As Shaxx, at that point, was also tearing off a leg. Bell, when that next explosion hit, Bell was sent flying and was impaled. Well, not impaled. Actually flew a bit and fell off the mountain. He's like, son of a bitch. As he fell off, like a good, decent slope. As he was falling down, he smashed into the ground. And was pretty much close to death. Actually, no, he was dead. As I still have no idea how your guardian survives that fall when Gaul pushes him off. That just doesn't seem possible. Like, he's a guardian, was superhuman. But, yeah, he shouldn't have survived. But Bell doesn't. So now he's knocked out unconscious. He's like, ugh. With this unconscious state, or dead state, Lily comes out and just revives him. He's like, oh, that sucked. Oh. So he gets up and he's like, how do I get back up? He's like, well, you can either try to climb up the mountain again, or you can take the long way around and walk all the way around. He's like, climbing it is. As he jumps up and just starts climbing that way. Over the course of 10 or 15 minutes, he gets back up there. He's like, I'm alive. It's like, good. So, as Shaxx greets Bell warmly, he's like, you're alive. He's like, did you really expect I wouldn't be? He's like, no, not really. Oh, it's going to take a while to fix this wall. And winter is probably about a month away. It cannot be safe. No, it won't. I could requisition some supplies from the remaining warlords in your territory. It's like, that would be wise, Bell. I suggest you go and do that. Oh, you wait here, all weatherproof, you could say. He's like, yeah. You can also ask Gramps. He should have information about this as well. It's like, good point, Bell. And as he slaps Bell on sort of smacks Bell on the shoulder, he's like, you did well today. He's like, thank you, Shax. It's like, well, you're welcome. As they walk away with work to be done. And that's where I'm going to be ending this one off, guys. I hope you guys enjoy this. Hope you guys continue to enjoy this. And yeah, hope you guys have a nice day, nice night, nice life.